It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday. I am Kevin Abbott at Barrel of Monks Brewing, talking again about incredible classic beers and trying to give them the love and the respect that they so rightfully deserve. And in this week, we're talking about Zombie Dust by Three Floyds. This beer is fantastic. It's been around, I believe, since about 2010. And this beer is, when I was getting into craft beer, right, around that time, actually, 2010 time, this was a beer that was like so highly sought after. It was a beer that everyone was talking about, and it was a beer that people were trading for like crazy. It was a beer that if you were into IPAs and that kind of burgeoning hop culture that was coming around that time with all the great West Coast IPAs that were around, then this was a beer that you had to have. And I was living in Florida at the time. I didn't have access to it, but I had friends, thankfully, that did a lot of trading, and they were able to bring this beer in, and I was able to try it several times. I was also lucky enough in a trip home to Michigan to be able to go over to Three Floyds and actually visit the brewery. It was great. They're a great brewery in Indiana, so well known for Dark Lord, which was a famous beer, another really highly sought after beer that was one of the highest rated beers in the world on all the beer rating sites years and years ago. And that we haven't had a chance to do on this series either, because I haven't had a chance to get my hands on a bottle. But we've also done Gumball Head, which is another brewery, another beer that they do that's really well regarded and well respected and kind of classic in the American craft brewing scene. But let's get talking about Zombie Dust. There's tons of great things to talk about with Three Floyds. Unfortunately, there's only so many beers I can talk about because only so many beers I have access to. I got this when I was in a trip home to the Midwest, brought some home. This is a beer that really speaks to me because I'm one of those people who still loves pale ales, IPAs that utilize crystal malt, caramel malts. And you can kind of see that it has this really beautiful orange hue of this beer that usually comes, I'm guessing, comes from crystal malts. That would be how I would do it if I was making this beer. And I just love a well-integrated malt bill where the malt is really thoughtful and really speaking and integrating well with those piney resinous hops, the fruit-forward hops, just the entire kit and caboodle. This beer does that, and the malt is something that balances out the hop bitterness. It adds a little bit of sweetness, but it doesn't come off as cloying, or it doesn't make the beer not refreshing. And that's one of the big problems. When you go overboard with caramel malts on an IPA, it can make the beer just a little more plump on the tongue. It's a little bit too chewy, and it might be a little too sweet. We don't want that. We want an IPA still to be a refreshing beer that's crisp and dry and bitter, and there's no danger of not being a bitter beer here. There's a nice set of IBUs here. It's in the 60s, but it delivers bitterness in the back tongue. It's well-integrated bitterness. It doesn't come off as overly pithy or austere. It's just really, really smooth. It lets you taste all these great flavors. Like I said, the pine resin, I'm getting like a marmalade, like a sweet orange or tangerine flavor here. Maybe some hints of tropical fruit, maybe a little pineapple in there. But pine resin, those dank, earthy, green, floral kind of hops speak in there, along with a big hit of citrus. So around this time when this beer was being created, it was all about citrus hops. It was all about the hops that give you, Citra, which is a hop I believe that they still use to this day in here, that give you big citrus flavors. So it's kind of a throwback in that way, utilizing the caramel malt, still having a nice citrus backbone to it, and still utilizing those resinous and piney flavors, while the industry has kind of moved on and the new breweries all wanting tropical fruits, just all tropical all the time. And this is just so much easier and better to drink for me because it's not a one-trick pony. It's got a lot going on at the same time and gives me more in the way of the bitterness, the malt bill, and all the complexity of the hops. Really, really nice. 6.5%, really drinkable. This is just great. I wish I had the opportunity to have this on a more regular basis. I didn't just get 6 of them. I drank most of them when I was home in Michigan. And if I did, I would drink it very, very often. If you are in an area where this beer is available, I know it's more available. At one point, it was really just the Midwest, or it was really just in Indiana. That's why it was so sought after. But if you're lucky enough to have this, good for you. Congratulations. I'm very jealous. It's a great beer. It really is. And then moving on to what we do always talk about is the food and beer pairings. Recently on my other video series, or our other video series at Barrel of Monks, we're doing the Perfect Pair, which is a food and beer pairing series, which I highly recommend. You poke around on the YouTube channel to see. It's a great series. But I recently had some filet mignon sliders with blue cheese and some caramelized onions. And that was a dish that I paired with our Three Fates triple, which honestly, one of the better pairings that I was able to do on the series so far. I think that dish would go really, really well here. I think that for completely different reasons than the triple, and it's 9% and sweet, this has that malt backbone that would do so well with caramelized onions, because there's a sweetness there that would complement the malt flavor here, and kind of bring out some of those more bready, rich flavors in the malt. And then the blue cheese is really, really fatty and rich, and that bitterness and kind of the citrus hops and things in there, and that vein would cut through some of those fats and also bring out some of the more fruity flavors in the blue cheese itself. If we did that with like a steak slider or even just a burger with the blue cheese and caramelized onions, I think you don't need much more. I don't think you need a bunch of other crazy things in there. I think it's a very simple flavor profile of those ingredients with this beer would be absolutely dynamite. So, and then thinking about other pairings, what else with blue cheese? What else with caramelized onions? All would go well with this. You know, if you do a potatoes au gratin with caramelized onions, that would be another really good thing to pair with a beer like this. But thank you guys so much for checking in with us. We really appreciate all the suggestions and all the beers that you talk about when you engage with us, and also tell us what you should be drinking or what you will be drinking for your old favorite Friday. If you can get this, highly recommend it. If not, go and get a classic pale ale this weekend. Go get a Sierra Nevada pale ale. Go get something that's been around for a while with that classic pale ale profile, and think of those classic days of American craft beer like I will be doing. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.